Hello. I have a chair now. King of the castle, king of the castle. The chair isn't an upgrade. I already had it in Clonmel. I had to take it down. Back was broken on the normal kitchen table chairs. Plus I developed bruising on the back of my hamstrings. Both hamstrings, nearly identical bruises from this little wooden ledge that juts out just beyond the line of the pillow. So I said, no. I'm spending so many hours sitting down. I need to make it a little bit more comfortable. So I brought down my chair. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. However, the discussion of back pain could be a good intro for this. Because this podcast is the long-awaited one. This is the podcast with Rambleland's first and currently only sponsorship. This is the podcast with Dave Skillington from Float Cork. Float Cork, as many of you know by now, is the Floatation therapy clinic in Eden Hall, where you can go and experience weightlessness and a zero gravity sensation that you're not really going to get unless you either do skydiving or you become an astronaut. So there's your choices. Or you can fork out the thousands of pounds needed to buy a ticket on Virgin Galactic's suborbital spacecraft. That is the long-term goal. To get to space. I'd love to get to space. Space is me in space. But if you can't get to space, there's something else you can do. You can go float at Float Cork. 15% off for all you beautiful Rambleland listeners and viewers. You have to put Rambleland in the checkout. And it's well worth it. You guys need to check it out. And use Rambleland at checkout. Check the checkout. Check out the checkout. Whatever. Shut up, Tim. This is a sick podcast. Again, it's a very visually dense podcast. People only listening. You're missing out once more. I went to the clinic, got all the footage. Again, similar to what I did in the Colin Maher podcast. Put together more of a vlog-esque podcast episode, which I really enjoy doing. It brings out more of a creative cinematographer's vibe within me. But it's also an excellent conversation. Because not only do we talk about float and flotation therapy and the science behind it, but we kind of moved into individual ability to self-heal or to engage in practices which alleviate stress, anxiety, depression, body aches and pains, looking to build better, stronger people. And I love these kind of conversations because I love giving people the food for thought they need in order to begin to orchestrate themselves in a manner which improves their quality of life. Whatever we can do to improve somebody's quality of life, you have to do it. Wherever possible, improve people's quality of life. And there's no one more responsible for that than you. As the individual, you have to take the responsibility to go out and find ways of improving your well-being. And floating is a great way of relieving stress, relieving body aches and pains. And so I'm stressing again, you need to try flotation. Everyone needs to try flotation. Head on down to Dave's clinic. It's a beautiful place. You'll see now from the videos as well. It's a real nice place. Real nice setup. Real clean. Real professional. There's a lot of heart and soul gone into it. It's also such a cool place he's built in the chill room where he's got all these paintings up on the wall. He's got paintings from Dosbrack. For those of you who know, he's your man who makes all those crazy pictures of Joe Rogan and Conor McGregor and all the different sports stars and famous people. He's an incredibly gifted artist. And Dave has original Dosbrack up on his wall. I'm probably saying that name wrong, but I'm terrible at pronunciations, and that's the way it's spelled. But he's got original pieces on his wall. They look sick. The environment you're stepping into in Float Cork is really special, and it's really nice to be in. And I'm hoping people try it out. And if you do try it out, put it up in your story, tag Float Cork, tag Blank Slate Media, let other people know what you made of it, and be patient. Floating does not give you an experience that you can predict or that you can expect or imagine. It almost works indirectly. It's like you go gym every day, and while the gym feels good and relieves stress, and you probably sleep better, and your diet probably picks up, and there's a few factors that come around going to the gym. But next thing you know, you're 6 weeks, 8 weeks down the line, and all of a sudden you're looking jacked. You're like, I get it now. I see. Yeah, it's all been for something. It's the same with the float. You go in, you experience it. Maybe immediately you're feeling better. You're feeling de-stressed. You maybe sleep better. You may get on with people better. Grand. Excellent. We'll take that. But if you keep doing it repeatedly over a couple of weeks and months, you begin to go, wow, okay, I get it now. I do get it. I see where this is working, and I see it's how it's benefiting me. And the only way you can see that is if you start going there. And again, fantastic membership offers. But for the first timers, Rambleland at checkout, 15% off. Tag us, tag Flow Cork. The place is always busy. It's always booked up. If you want to get in there, you have to plan it ahead. But yeah, great conversation with Dave. We talk on a whole variety of things. I'm beginning to try and improve the quality of the viewership. So now again, one of the visuals you'll be missing as a listener is the studies. So I've included most of the studies that we've mentioned. I made minor corrections in with subtitles of facts and things that were said, and little words that were forgotten. I put them in. I'll be including all the citations in the bio for the YouTube and on Spotify. It is important I keep up citations. It's something I was always going to have to get on board with, is when you talk about studies, you do have to reference them. You do have to reference your facts. So I've gone the extra mile for this podcast to try and do exactly that, to do it justice, because there is a science behind flotation. It's not just it feels good. Like scientists and doctors and psychotherapists have come together and they've analysed floating, and they've analysed how it affects the individual. And there was a real tangible science growing behind it. Like, me and Dave both hope that floating could one day be actually used as a prescription. Instead of them telling you to go take this pill indefinitely, imagine if they said, I want you to go do an hour every week for 6 weeks in a float tank and come back to me and see how you're feeling. Imagine how different it would be for the chemistry of your brain not to be tampered with, but instead for you to be able to find natural remedies to totally natural events, such as bouts of depression, such as dealing with anxiety, such as dealing with body aches and pains, injuries, just everyday stress. These are normal and natural. People who suffer from a variety of conditions or stress related disorders, you're not abnormal. There's nothing wrong with you. A lot of the times there's nothing wrong with your chemistry. There are qualities going into your life that are upsetting your natural balance. And a lot of these sort of ailments can be rectified with individual decisions. Now, as we say in the podcast, I'm not telling you come off your meds. I'm not telling you don't do this or don't do what your doctor says. But you need to understand that there's a lot more control in how you feel and think than people will lead you to believe. You know, a lot of the times people who suffer from depression or suffer from anxiety are in this category of victim, where they're either the victim of their own mind, or they're a victim of bullying, or they're a victim of discrimination, or they're the victim of something. And that's why they feel down. That's why they're depressed. And so if the world would just correct how the world treats them, they wouldn't feel depressed anymore. As a general philosophy, I'm not on board with that as a practice. I try and remove victimhood from people wherever possible, and I do think there's a lot of things people could be doing better in their lives that would improve their quality of life. The fundamentals, as I mentioned, your diet, your sleep, your exercise, etc., but also decompressors, finding ways of letting out stress, of detoxing the body of pent up energy, be it good or bad. And exercise is a great one to do it. But moments of peace, which is where meditation and spirituality comes in, or flotation, which is a form of meditation more or less. These are necessary to just take the demands off your brain every once in a while and allow your brain just to drift and just to relax. And not only can you allow your mind to do that, but floating allows your body to do it too. So it's a 2-for-1. And where else are you going to be able to get into a chamber that eliminates sound and light and external stimulus in general? If you've got kids running around your house, if you've got brothers and sisters, if you live in a busy house, where else are you going to find these moments of peace? Even when you go into your room, you're still going to have noise and other stimulus coming in to distract you. If you want to try and do yoga, if you want to try and meditate, if you want to try and pray or do whatever you want, there's always going to be something else distracting you. Even if you live in an apartment on your own, Upstairs, downstairs, neighbours, doors slamming, dogs barking, people walking. There's always something. Floating is where you can just go and I think a lot of people will benefit from it. Now, I rambled a bit too much, but this is something I like. This is something I'm passionate about. I feel a lot of potential in floating. So we talk about other aspects too. This is also a man who doesn't have a junior cert, and yet now he's running a successful business. So there's a success story in that alone, and I love that. I love hearing people doing well. So here's a local man. He's as Cork as the soil we're standing on, and he's running a business, providing a service for people, providing a place where people can go, and I have massive respect for him, and I'm delighted to be in business with him. And so I hope you enjoy the podcast as much as I enjoyed making it. So Rambleland episode 16 with Dave Skillington. So let me just make sure to see what I can pick up on me. So I'm here chilling in his chill out room, waiting for him. He's in the middle of a float, so he's getting himself ready. And I'm just having a look around. I've got my strawberry kombucha. Anyone who knows me knows I love kombucha. And they have a selection of flavours. They have original, blueberry, or strawberry. I have to admit, not only is the delicious kombucha, you can get a little hint of the strawberry as well, which is, I would have said, kind of rare for kombucha. I always think kombucha relatively tastes in around the same, but very nice. And we're here. This is his setup. There's a selection of books. There's also this collection of markers and an encouragement for people when they're here to see what their imagination brings up. And I hope I'm not prying on anyone's personal thoughts, but I thought it was kind of cool. So have a little look. We are good to go. Dave, thank you very, very much, man, for having me here and for bringing me in.
No worries,
for people who will know at this stage, we are in Float Cork here in Eden Hall. First of all, it is a beautiful place you have created.
Thanks, man.
You've put a lot of effort and a lot of heart and a lot of soul into a place where people can come and have an experience. They're not coming for a service, they're coming for an experience. And you've gone out of your way to get as many of the senses covered. Despite the fact your business is centered around sensory deprivation, you've actually increased emphasis and care given to the senses that people have when they come in here. And it is a beautiful place.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, no worries. Delighted that you're here, Tim. I'm glad to do this. I'm looking forward to the conversation with you. I've never done anything like this before. But I'm just interested in a good conversation with you, and I'm open for anything.
Were you nervous before coming on?
I wasn't really today. I've been probably thinking about it the last few days. All right, whether I want to do something like this. I've never really put myself out there like this. I've never. I don't really go on social media or anything like that, and write about myself or anything like that.
Was there a conscious reason why not?
I don't know. I just never appealed to me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because
it's not something I'm attracted to doing. The marketing and the promotion side of the business is not something that I get excited about. I get excited about people coming in the door and me facilitating the floor and seeing them post floor. Like, I get a buzz out of that.
So explain to people first of all how you came to be running a sensory deprivation flotation business.
I don't know, man. It's a hard one to define why I'm here, but I don't know. I've heard about floating for years. I've heard Joe Rogan talk about floating for years, probably 10 years plus. I've been listening to him talk about the benefits of floating. He's a huge advocate for floating. Most people know who Joe Rogan is. Probably the Oprah for men. So some people refer him he's just for me he's a hugely positive influence on me and my generation, particularly men.
I like that Oprah for men.
Yeah, I've heard people say that. So I've heard him talk about it for years, and I was always curious. And I had my first float about 8 years ago in Melbourne, Australia. I was working out there, and I was keen to do it for a while, and I was working in a supply chain job over there for Cadbury's chocolates, planning their seasonal business, all their Easter egg business and chocolates at Christmas, Valentine's, Mother's Day, all that kind of stuff. It was quite a stressful job,
Bit of a rat race job?
Oh, pure rat race job. I mean, they were operating 24/7. There was no downtime, so there was a load of complexity in the planning part of it, but also the operational side of it, also the marketing side of it. Their whole business is probably high in complexity, which then brings an element of stress and strain, and it's not just through periods. It's constant, as they seek to optimize things and improve and enhance and phasing old products, phase out old products, phase in new products. So it was a very stressful job, and I was just keen to get the tank. I was really keen to get the tank.
Pure curiosity.
Yeah, I mean, I was so excited to get the tank. I was like, I know I'm gonna love this thing. I'm gonna love it. I had that knowingness in me that this is what I need. This is the antidote now to everything else. This is the quietness. This is the silence. This is the place to reflect.
So there was something inside you before you'd even floated that told you this, from your descriptions and from your analysis of what you'd heard about it. You knew that this was going to connect with something inside you.
I had a gut feel for sure. My gut was telling me, this is good, there's benefit to this, you've got to do this, And I went in there really, not super over eager, enthusiastic, but just, I can't wait to get in this thing, And I got in the tank and it was great, It was, there was a one tank centre right around the corner. Floating was not a big deal 8 years ago in Australia.
Yeah.
It really wasn't. I couldn't find a float tank business in Melbourne city centre. I'm sure there was one there, but I couldn't find it, whether there wasn't great visibility of the place. But I found a place out in Ringwood, which was out in the suburbs of Australia, where the Cadbury's factory was. And it was in a kind of a spa beauty clinic. There was only one tank, and it was a real old technology tank, So it was a square thing. It was, there was nothing, aesthetically pleasing about the room or anything like that. It was just a tank, but I was still excited to get in there.
Wasn't like here, so.
Well, I tried to do my best here just to make it really.
You've done an extremely good job, but the rooms in there are of a high quality.
Yeah.
Like, it really feels expensive when you step into those rooms.
Yeah, but they're not cheap to put together, like.
I don't doubt it.
You know, and people like, you know, some people think it's a simple operation, you know, but man, building the place was hard. Like, it's the hardest thing I ever did in my life, you know. Because I had no experience either. Like, I was an employee all my life. You know? I had no business experience, you know. So I just tried to learn as much as I could, you know, and do as much research as I could.
So this first float in Melbourne, did it live up to your expectations?
It blew my head off, like, it really did. Like, you know, in terms of the potential.
Yeah.
I think the potential was like, wow, what was that?
Yeah.
But it wasn't like immediately getting out of the tank, wow, what was that? It was like, that was really good, getting out of the tank maybe, and showering up and leaving the place I was like, yeah, I'll do that again, definitely. When can I do it again? Leaving, like, you know? And I suppose it was just in the car on the way home that I just started to realise how I felt physically, mentally, emotionally, like, you know? Just, I remember stopped at traffic lights on the way home, and just seeing the colours of the traffic lights was just real, vivid brightness from the traffic lights.
Mm-hmm.
I could just, it was like just a lovely red colour. I was just appreciating the colours that I was seeing, and the senses that I had, you know, in terms of what I was hearing, what I was feeling in my body, and just being generous, just very good, just in a very good mood on the way home, you know. Yeah. So that was just my memory of that first float, you know.
That's actually interesting, because the first time I floated with you, there was a weird, I didn't know what to expect out of it, and so I got in, and I was like, this is amazing, this is such an experience. It was as an experience, it's very unique, and it's very cool. And that was the first time in a big bath of Epsom salts, and the real smooth, silky sort of water effect that it leaves in your hands and everything was all just sort of fun and novel. And then so for people who don't know, there's the music to sort of gent you into it, to sort of ease you into it. There's nice lighting in there. You're just floating. You're getting the feel out of it. At the beginning, it's all very new and very exciting. And you close your eyes and you're just chilling. And then the music stops and the lights go off and you open your eyes. Wow, it's so dark. And then you're floating and say, well, okay, this is pretty cool. I can understand why people like this. And then the next thing I knew, the lights were coming on. The music was going. And I was like, hang on a minute. I didn't press any of the buttons. I was here for an hour, but where's my hour gone? Is there something wrong? I remember getting out of the tank being real confused. I'm like, what happened the last hour?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, whatever.
You went somewhere, did you? You went somewhere where you don't know
gone.
where. Like,
I was gone. Like, I would have thought at that moment, I was like, I fell asleep in that tank. That's what it felt like as I was gone. But I thought, there's no way you'd fall asleep in water. Your body wouldn't let you. That was the rationale. I was like, I couldn't have been asleep. I couldn't have been asleep. So I showered and left. And just like yourself, it was in the hours and the days afterwards that you reflect on what I didn't understood what happened in that hour, but I knew it was amazing, and I knew it was an experience, and I was like, I'm going back there. And then I booked in again with one of my mates, Sean, and he came down with me, and then later on, following time, I brought my mother down, and as I said to you earlier on, she'd be real resistant to all that kind of stuff, and not that stuff in terms of bathing or anything, but nerves of new situations, doesn't like stepping out of her comfort zone very much. And she loved it. She loved it.
Yeah.
Now, there's a few factors from the cleanliness and just the lovely atmosphere, as I said, that you have here. But the float itself did something for her that she wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
And it has that ability to just... you underestimate it, I think, a lot of people.
It's extremely healing, man. And you don't know it till you get in, like, you know, and you get to the other end, you know. It's very therapeutic.
It is.
It really is, and for all demographics. I mean, we've had kids as young as 4 and 5 floating with their parents.
Wow.
And our oldest client was 94 years old, and she was actually a nun, like, who loved it. Like, I still remember her, like, and she was like so game for it, like, and she absolutely loved it, you know. And honestly, God, 99% of people love the float experience. Even those that are extremely nervous or thinking that they're claustrophobic, if you can just reassure them that, like, this is a very safe experience, it's extremely safe, and the objective of us is like that we want you to have a comfortable float experience
Mhm.
and not to be worrying about the experience so you can get the full benefits of the experience.
Yeah.
So like we put a lot of emphasis on that, even though I don't like priming anybody to get in the tank. I'd rather just show them the room, open the door and say, go in there now, you'll be grand there for an hour, like just focus on your breath, you'll be fine, you'll know the end when the music fades back in. I would prefer to just do that and then they get the full benefits of the experience without expectation, But sometimes you just have to give people a little bit of coaching, reassure them that they're going to be safe,
And what sort of coaching would you give them?
Are just on that there's you don't have to do anything you're uncomfortable with. I think that's the most important thing. People might feel that they have to turn off the lights on their first session. They really don't. We can play audio throughout, but I don't think that's the experience. A little bit of audio at the start is good, something to focus on, and your breath, and then the audio fades out. We can play the audio for a little bit longer. So in terms of coaching, just how to float, what positions to float, like usually, hands above the head is really nice, or you can experiment with your hand position. Usually it's like, experiment, this is your first time, usually it's a novelty, a bit of novelty, but like find what works for you, and then just try hold that position and focus on your breathing, like, and don't worry about anything,
Have you ever had clients that have come out and said, no, this isn't for me?
A couple, yeah.
And what would you say to them then? Would you try and, not convince them, but would you try and work the way through of what was it that you didn't like?
You never know what's going on with people, so no, I've never, I have a conversation to, trying to find out if it's something that we did, if it's something to do with the experience, whether that was the water the right temperature, was it too hot or was it too cold? Because that could ruin a float experience, was there anything at all we did that affected the float experience?
Yeah.
And if it's not that, then usually it's the person, but it's very rare, I swear to God, Tim, it's very rare that somebody gets out of the tank, in terms of percentage, it's way below 0.1% of the people that come in here,
Because that's the real interesting thing about it, is that the people it's designed for... No, sorry, not the people it's designed for. The studies that have been given over to the therapeutic effect of it. So it's rest. Are you familiar with that? Rest.
Reduced environmental
stimulation therapy.
Yeah.
And so there's been studies done across the board on a wide range of people who may avail of the flotation therapy. And it was your man who first came up with it, Dr.
John Lilly, is it?
Lilly, there we go. He was doing it because the argument was that our consciousness is based on the sensory input, and that if you remove sensory input, but then our brains are effectively dead, and he was trying to disprove that. So he came up with a few different ways of dampening as many external stimulus as possible in order to create this environment. And then he began to test different people in it and different types of people in it. And so it was interesting when I was reading through some of the different studies, was that people with a wide range of stress-related disorders who would have these guards and these resistance to new experiences, and who often see the negative in a lot of new experiences, when they managed to do it, they didn't just experience a sort of a release in their stress. It was a massive release.
Massive. I mean, if you look at the studies that have been done by LIBOR, there's a place in Oklahoma in the US.
Yes.
The Laureate Institute for Brain Research, and a guy called Justin Feinstein is the main guy over there. He's actually gone to Hawaii now, Maui, and he's considering that's what he's doing is setting up a float research clinic in Maui, So it's really exciting for the float industry at the moment, because we have guys like him that are really looking at severely affected people that have chronic anxiety and depression.
Yes. So that was the interesting thing, was that they took 50 people. Yeah. There was a wide range of, there was agoraphobics, there was, give me 2 seconds now, there was general GAD, general anxiety disorder, there was panic attack sufferers, there was a wide range of people in there.
High anxiety
Real
sensitivity.
high, yeah.
Anxiety sensitivity, yeah.
And what they found was when they compared the results of people who had the most severe cases of anxiety against people who were considered non-anxious, then this most severe actually derived greater results than the non-anxious people. And it brought people who have suffered anxiety and extreme forms of it, like not being able to go outside and real bad sort of bipolar off it, brought them to a level approaching what the results were non-anxious individuals, or what an anxious person would consider normality.
Yeah. It's incredible. The results are incredible. Amazing. Yeah, we summarised the results there on one or two posts there probably last year during the first lockdown, and I put it on the website as well, just to show people like this is what they've actually done on a group of 50 people, and the results on the graph is just incredible. It is, and then all the positive mood as well that people experience as well. And the
pain relief, man.
Pain relief.
Osteoarthritis sufferers, chronic osteoarthritis coming in and having pain relief, and in some cases like pain remission almost, that regular use of these tanks allowed certain joints enough decompression to actually begin to heal and to reduce pain long term. And there was a 6-month follow-up on, now I think it was people with, again, sort of stress related disorders.
Yeah.
And they found, so there's that was it, hang on, there's 37% of people with a chronic condition were found 6 months in to still be in remission of their disorder. So they did a 12-week stint of floating multiple times a week for 12 weeks. At the end of the 12 weeks they were studying, 37% of them were in remission of their disorders. They were beginning to deal with it, and they were beginning to move past a lot of their anxieties. And 6 months later, those results were found in all the people to still have been sustained. Yeah. So it wasn't a temporary thing that was okay in the first few hours you're alright. Actually, when they tracked it, it had long-term results and benefits of people too.
I don't know. I think we need to be careful, because I don't think it's a cure-all. You know what I mean? No. We have a lot of people coming in here with chronic pain. And I definitely think that there is pain relief during the float experience, anecdotally, from what I'm hearing.
This study now was on anxiety now. It wasn't the pain.
But was it specifically float tanks, or was it something else like psilocybin or something
like that? No,
it
was just the float tanks. It was just 12 weeks of regular floating.
Yeah. No, there are loads of positive indicators, but I don't know how long ahead did they go and say were they totally in remission from what they were experiencing either, But we are hearing that people are getting 24 hours, 36 hours, 48 hours of pain relief. You can't take a pill that is going to give you that amount of pain relief. You can't, no matter what you take. You'll take a pill and it'll wear off in 4 and 6 hours, and then you'll take another one, and then you'll continue that cycle, Yeah. But I do think this is complementary to people that have severe chronic pain problems. But I wouldn't be encouraging anybody, because I'm not qualified to go off your medication or anything like that.
No.
Take your doctor's advice, do what you got to do, but definitely get in the tank, see what it does for you. Have an open mind, come without any expectations.
You had doctors sending people down to you.
We've had people referred down here, alright, by pain consultants and psychiatrists, counsellors, and I don't know who these people are. I haven't reached out to anybody to try to network with them, to try to get people to come down here. What we've tried to do since day one is just facilitate a good experience.
And that word of mouth has reached people in the medical industry.
100%, yeah. We've experimented with some advertising for the first 2.5 years, and we just stopped advertising, man, to be honest with you. Every now and again we'll put out, if we're doing a promotion or something like that, at Christmas we'll do something, but I haven't advertised since probably Christmas, I'd say.
And you've had full tanks the whole way through?
We've full tanks all the time, probably 7 to 10 days out, the schedule is pretty full.
Wow.
And most regulars, members.
You have a nice membership. Scene running at the minute.
Very good price point. Yeah. And it's really just to, give the best value as we can give. It's hard to run an operation like this. The overheads are quite high.
Yeah.
But
I was going to ask you, I was curious about that, is how labour intensive is it running this business?
Very labour intensive. But I mean, the high costs are probably the setup costs, like.
Okay.
Do you know?
Like running the electricity for the tanks and everything.
It's quite reasonable.
Okay.
Quite reasonable. They're very cost efficient. Yeah, but they're running 24 hours a day then as well, like, you know. But you know, energy is costly, but it's not our major cost, like, you know.
Okay.
But the cost of setup is the big drawback, you know. But you got to do it right, I think, you know. First day you got to do it. And if you don't do it right, you know, there's a risk that it doesn't, I don't know, just strike a chord with people, like, you know.
It would be lovely, though, going back to what we were saying earlier about how the benefits for some people is that with doctors getting on board, if you could prescribe someone an hour of floating a week before you give them Xanax or before you maybe give them some of the stronger antidepressants, and try them for 4 weeks on that and just see what the results you could have. At the very least, you'll know if it works for this person or not. And there's like, you're not going to suffer physically by even trying this.
No, and it's an easy thing to test, you know. Sending somebody into a float, it's come here. It's not quite a spa, but it's more of a health center that we have here, you know. So, you know, for somebody to come in the door, you know, people do come for recreational purposes, but like, I'd say 50% of the people are coming to manage their stress or pain, or, you know, they have sleep issues, you know.
Is there any sort of example of someone that really did bounce back from using floats through, say, pain? If they had do you know anyone who
we just have regular people using it that are saying, like, you know, I can't live without my floats now, you know. You know, they just love coming in here, like, you know. Some people are coming in twice a week. People that have conditions like fibromyalgia or rheumatoid arthritis, and they're getting tremendous relief inside the tank in terms of pain relief. And I get it myself, you know. I mean, like, I float for a whole range of reasons, you know. One of them is just physical recovery from exercise. You know, there's nothing like getting in the tank after a workout. The body just loves it. It's like the reward for doing the hard work, like. You do the hard work, you're like exhausted, and then you get in the tank and go, oh my God. This is so good. Honest to God, I am my best customer. If I didn't own this business, I'd be in here every single week, as much as I could afford. And I'm in the tank probably nearly every day during the week.
Because I actually was curious, do you ever get bored of it?
Not at all. And the boredom is sweet. The boredom is actually valuable, because that's where you access your creativity. That's where I get my best ideas inside that tank. You know, anything any problem I have gets resolved inside the tank, you know. And there's a fair kind of an organisation of your thoughts as well in there. So even the floats that are uncomfortable, or you're like,
not feeling it today,
feeling it, like, I think there's benefit to it.
So there has been moments where you felt, I'm not in the mood for this today, but you stick at it.
I do. Sometimes I get out early, you know.
Have you ever left a float early?
Oh yeah, I've got out early.
And do you feel like you've cheated on yourself a small bit?
I don't know, maybe I just feel, maybe there's this maybe on those occasions, there's probably the critic in me would say, you didn't earn it or something, like, you know what I mean? You didn't do your work, like, you know what I mean? Whether that's your, you know, work got to do with the business, or, you know, working out or something like that, like, you know. I do feel like I have to earn my floats, you know. Like, I might be floating every day, but that's supporting, you know, a busy schedule, like, you know.
Because that was the thing that was going back to Rogan, is that he has this sauna. He gets cooked inside in that sauna, and he swears by it. And it's in those last few minutes of the sauna that he really finds that that's where he really gets his juices going and his creative juices flowing, and that he keeps referring to his thankfulness and his gratitude seems to come up in those last few moments. I think
gratitude is where it's at, man. I
100%.
swear to God, I think it's fucking all in gratitude.
Yeah.
Honest to God, like, and like, I've had negative emotion throughout my life, like many other people, you know, and I'm trying to, you know, do all the things that promote positive emotion and general well-being, you know, for myself and my family, you know, so.
And the other thing as well is that you're seeing people coming in with severe pain 24 hours a day. And I don't know about you, but have you a condition that's very painful constantly?
I don't really, to be honest with you. I mean, my body's been jacked over jiu-jitsu and stuff like that, you know, and I've had.
But there's a contrast there where you can automatically see gratitude, is that you don't have to. It doesn't take you hours to get out of bed in the morning because you've got chronic back pain.
Yeah.
And It's finding those simple things to be grateful for is what a lot of people overlook.
Yeah,
and they don't give it that time.
Things, as you said, it could be anything.
Yeah.
Man. The gratitude is, I'm glad my daughter is healthy. I'm glad my son is healthy. I'm glad my partner is not ill or anything. Those are simple things that we
take for granted.
Man. And it's only when something, catastrophic happens in your life or the lives
you
of the people around you,
had it.
that you start to reflect. And that's why the tank is beneficial as well, because it's a place to contemplate, man. Your own life, how you're living it, how you're acting, what are your attitudes. And then you get to really, because there's no distraction inside there. Yeah. There's just you and your mind and how you are in the world. And if you're being a dickhead, for some reason, that'll be the thing that will be you'll face in the tank.
It's not funny.
Oh, it's so interesting, man. It's so interesting, but it's a lesson. It's like your deep self telling you, stop being a dickhead. You're doing, that was bang out of order, whatever it was. And it's meditation, man. Simple as that. That tank is a meditation vehicle. It's an easy access to the meditative state. You can sit in the pillow, and I do myself. I sit in a pillow every morning, and I'm trying to strengthen my practice. I'm a total novice meditator, but I'm trying to strengthen my practice every morning. And my practice is 15 minutes in the morning before I do anything, silent meditation. A timer on, monitoring my breath. And the same in the tank. That's what you're doing. You're practicing, you're focusing.
Did you build it up to the 15 minutes? Because meditation is hard. A lot of people struggle.
20 minutes. It's like varies. I'm telling you, I started meditating just before I probably opened a business 3.5 years ago. And I've always had an intention to do it. Listening to people talk about the benefits of meditation and the value that comes from it. So I've always had an intention, but I started about 3.5 years ago. And it was the thing that got me over the line with opening the door of this place. If I wasn't meditating, I'd say I would have fallen apart. From the challenges and the stress involved of trying to open a business for the first time ever, without any experience, and spending all your resources on something. I took the money that I had for the mortgage and put it into the business. That was like 40 or 50,000 out of my own pocket. My partner wants a house, I said, no, trust me, I'll do this and I'll do it right. And I borrowed the rest, That
was a big move, man.
It was a big move. It was an opportunity for me to grow, man. And I put my head down and I tried to focus on what I was doing. And the meditation got me through. Because I sat in the pillow every morning, there was 8 times when I'm talking to the builder and the fire guy and the landlord, and I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just trying to do it. I'm opening this place. I don't care. I'm opening this place, and I was just every day, right, sit in meditation, observe it, and that 15 minutes, 20 minutes of just observing your thoughts and the chaos of your thoughts, is the benefit, because you're just observing how you're reacting to thoughts. You're just observing how you respond to stimulus. And over time, you get better at it. You get better at responding to the stimulus in a more productive way, maybe. And I think that's what helped me enormously with trying to open the place,
Okay, and that's very interesting now, because it is time for me to go and experience my float, and I'm looking forward to doing the contrast from before float and after float. So I've had no caffeine today. That was one of the things. Good. No coffee. I did have tea, actually. I had tea, but no coffee. And I've been looking forward to this for a long time, Dave. I'm
excited for you. I can't wait for you to see what kind of an experience you have.
And the thing was as well is that I thought I'd lost one of my mics just running out the door, and I worked myself into a tizzy looking for it. And I rang my housemate, and he was able to be like, "Here, I think it's in this bag," and that bag was already in my boot in the car, and I was already on the way in. And sure enough, it was here. So when I got here, I was trying to decompress, putting all the stuff together, got set up, and there was a few minutes there waiting for yourself. And I came in, I just sat in the room, and you had the music playing, and just being here, I could feel this pressure just dissipating from the back of my mind.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh,
yeah, man, that's
get me into this tank.
This is a stress-free environment, This is what it's about, surround yourself in places that makes you feel good, you know,
Yeah.
whether that's the forest or a float tank,
Yeah.
you know, because life is stressful, but you know, there's ways to counter it.
Well, let me go see now what all this crap is about. That was beautiful, man. That flow. There's no feeling like it. It was the same. It was the same again. So I got into the tank, and you get into the water, and at the beginning, you're very much conscious of where you are and what's happening. That you're here for a float. And you at the beginning, you listen to the music, and Carrie had that lovely. She had an running for me this time with birds playing, and it was the first time I've heard that, and that was lovely as well. It was very fun because I've never felt vibrations through water or music, and I could feel the music actually vibrating my body.
That one really
that
does
one
give
just
it vibrates your whatever,
it
your
goes through
chakras
your
or
core.
your whole body, yeah.
And other times I've been here, there's been the piano music going. And I've always been a fan of piano music when it comes to looking for something that's just directly relaxing. Piano music has always been going for me, and that's a lovely one too. But it was nice to have the because it was the first time I ever had that. And so yeah, I'm lying there and you're floating, and the music goes for 10 minutes, and you can feel the music fading out, and you turn off the lights, and everything's still, and you have your distance. You're not touching the sides. Your arms are where you want them to be. You're barely moving.
You're centered, are you?
You're centered. And then it's just, you realise that you haven't been paying attention. And there's a big passage of time it's just taken place. And I realised it happened again, that same experience from the first couple of times. And the only way I can describe it is like if you wake up in the morning before your alarm clock. And you've got another hour, 2 hours of sleep in you, and you're like, oh, nice one. You roll back over, and you're half awake, but you're dreaming, and it's real nice and comforting. And usually, I always find they're real nice, fun dreams at that hour of the morning. And the next thing, your alarm goes off, and you realize, whoa, I'm dreaming. And it's like that in the float tank, where you think you're conscious, and then a piece of reality actually comes in, and you realize, oh, wait a minute, I haven't been here for the last bit of time. And it's almost like there's a part of my mind that gets center stage that doesn't usually be on the forefront. And it gets to run the show for a while. And then a piece of reality comes in, like you're at a podcast, you've this to do tomorrow, or something else comes in, and it's a cold and it's a sudden shock, and you're like, whoa. And that's what suddenly makes you alert between the two, as you said, altered consciousnesses, the two different states. And you go, oh, I want to get back into that sort of other state. And you don't fight it. You just breathe your way through it. And when you just focus back on your breathing, the next thing you know, there's another moment of reality, and you realize you've been gone again.
Yeah.
And you slip in and out of these states of consciousness.
Yeah. And it's almost like you want to get back there, because when you come out of it, you go, oh my God, whatever happened there, if I could.
Yeah.
If I could. Yeah. How do I go back there? All right, you focus on the breathing again. You center yourself in the tank, you know. Everything is good. And soon enough, you know, if you have patience, just like meditation, you know, you get to these higher states, you know.
Yeah. And everything is good. It's a weird feeling because you're not lying to yourself. You actually are at peace with whatever's going on. And I think that's why people who have anxiety must get a greater benefit out of it then. And we'll come back to those studies. why it showed that people with greater anxiety have more beneficial properties than people who are not anxious in general.
Yeah.
And it's because they live in such a heightened state that when whatever takes place in the tank happens, that distance between the hyper anxious state and this moment of peace that they get is extreme. It's a stark difference.
Yeah, it's total rest. I mean, it is total rest and peace, as you say, you know. And John Lilly wrote a book, the inventor of the float tank, wrote a book called The Quiet Center, and he talks about that center that's at the core of all of us.
And I was just about to mention that because that shows that everyone has that ability to rest in them.
Yeah, you have an ability to access that, and even people that are, you know, chronically stressed out and anxious that can't seem to just be okay with the present can access that in the tank. They can, because I've seen it, pre to post float. The difference is staggering in people, and it's because they've got that opportunity. First time maybe, because my first time floating 8 years ago in Melbourne was like, I've never accessed that state in my life.
Maybe not even when you sleep as well, because some people, the anxiety keeps them from sleeping deeply. They don't get access to full REM sleep. They don't wake up feeling refreshed.
Yeah, I'm always curious and interested in hearing people talk about their experience, you know, because I just see the facial expression on people when they come out, and it's like, how'd you get on? Oh man. And it's almost like a psychedelic experience, like, you know.
It is.
It's a mild psychedelic experience for sure, you know.
And it's that interesting level of peace where you haven't lied to yourself about what your reality is, because there's a lot that happens a lot with like suppressants like alcohol and certain drugs, where it's a suppression of your reality in order to forget about it. But then there's psilocybin and there's other more psychedelically based drugs that bring whatever your reality is, and I don't know, whoever you are as a person, into one moment where you actually are at peace with everything that's going on. And it's not a blocking out of your reality. It's a merging of your worries and your cares and your concerns with an acceptance of them. And it's the same sort of experience in the float, where it's not that I suppose we are actually forgetting parts of us for a while we're floating.
But it must be like, I mean, it's a peak state, just like they talk about in Johns Hopkins University. The guy Roland Griffiths has been doing the studies on psychedelics for the last decade and a half, maybe 20 years, you know. And like, what they're finding is people on the psilocybin, they're accessing, you know, spiritual experiences, you know, and they're reporting back that was the most significant spiritual experience of my life, you know. I imagine on a smaller scale, like, you know, when you're in the tank, like, what it feels to me, it's quite a mystical experience. You know, I've done it so much now that I've had so many different experiences in there, and I've had kind of what you could probably categorize as what it felt to me was a spiritual experience, that I was connecting with something that was greater than myself, that was almost godlike, or was godlike, and to put it into words is quite difficult. The same people would report back on psychedelics when they come back from an experience like that. They don't have any words to describe the experience, because a lot of them can say, like, you know, it was realer, it was more real than normal reality itself, you know. And just in the tank, like, you know, I've had floats in there that were like, how do I explain that to anybody, like, you know? Like, I've had some psychedelic experiences that I was like, what just happened there, you know? Very significant experiences that, like, they rate in the top 2 or 3 in my life, you know. I mean, that painting above is one of them, like, you know.
It is a beautiful, beautiful painting, and it's done by Carrie, who's outside. She's an employee of the place. I went through it nice and slowly earlier on,
Yeah, there's so much detail in it.
The detail is incredible.
Yeah.
She's got all the workings of Alice in Wonderland into all the different pieces. She got the third eye in multiple spots as well.
Yeah.
And she's got, like, you can see, the man is taking his energy from the soil. You've got this whole union of creation and spirituality into one piece. And it's an incredibly good piece.
And for me, like, that painting was kind of drawn on instruction from a friend of ours, Luke, and Carrie was drawing it based on a conversation with Luke, you know.
Yeah.
And like that came out of a conversation we would have had in Cafe Moon after a DMT experience.
Yeah.
And like that was 2 years ago now, and we described this experience, like myself and my buddy, to Luke, and Luke went back then, and Carrie started to draw this thing based on our experience, yeah. Because like when I came back from that DMT experience was like that. It was almost like I had connected with something that was unexplainable.
Yeah.
And I almost had this overview effect of the world. You know, like they talk about the astronauts being catapulted out of the Earth and looking back on the planet.
Yeah.
I could see the planet as real as I can see you now from above the planet, looking back in it, and I had this memory of, or this feeling of responsibility to the planet, and that's a common experience people have on psychedelics, and I'm not sure, is it in my mind because I've heard of other people's experiences, like this union or this unity with everything and all, but you know, one of the words up there is absolutely, because I was describing the experience when I came back, and it was like, I remember looking at the planet going, absolutely, would you look at it? It's almost this gratitude that this thing exists and we're on it and we're alive to witness this experience, you know. But then there's the destructive nature of humanity, you know. And I don't know how to explain it. I can't put it into words, that experience. It's I can't do it justice. And I've tried so many times before, and the memory is so slippery now that it's gone, you know.
Yeah.
When I came back first, it was like, I remember this, and I remember this, and I remember this, and describing this to my friends, like. And I remember for like 3 to 6 months afterwards, I was trying to put the pieces back together, like. And what I do recall, and what will stick with me, was I experienced my own death. It was a psychological dying. I experienced my own death before it happened. And the benefit I got from that is the perspective I have now post the experience, you know, which is gratitude for being alive, man. So imagine having the ability to witness your own death and then having the perspective and the opportunity to, you know, live your life in whatever way you want to live your life. So I benefited tremendously from that experience, you know. It scared the shit out of me too, don't get me wrong, like, I thought I was dead, like, so.
And you do believe it in that moment.
Man,
I know a story of someone who took, they took 6 grams of dried mushrooms, and they knew pretty quick that it was, they knew pretty quick that it was going to be an interesting night for them. And they were in a room with their mates, and they were like, no, I need to get out, I need to be on my own for a bit. And they went out in a room, and there was his friend they were in his friend's house, and he had the bedroom upstairs, and so I'm going to get into his bedroom and just, you know, take control of myself now for a while. And he didn't even make it to the top of the stairs. He was halfway up the stairs, crawling up the rest of the stairs, and he got to the top, and he was licking the carpet, the stairs. It was all totally rational in his mind. And anyway, he made it into the bedroom at last, and the only way he can describe it was just the most intense and out of control experience that he ever had, where he had convinced himself he had had a heart attack and had died, and because he'd had all these chest pains, and he was convinced it was over. And when he opened his eyes, there was a paramedic standing over him talking to him, and he was talking fluently to her. And he said to her, "My dead." He said to her, "What happened?" She goes, "You have died." but people have these experiences after they die, is that they actually have full conversations with us for another while, but you actually are dead, and this is the remnants of your spirit living on just before it moves on. And he's looking around the room, and there was a guard standing here, and there was a full Garda car in his mate's bedroom, and it was there, and it was, everything fitted proportionally, everything made sense. And he goes, okay.
He accepted it?
He accepted it. He goes, okay, fine, no problem. I'm happy. And sure enough, then after a while, it begins to wear off, and he's zoned back in. And he just went downstairs to his mates, and they were all outside, and hours had gone past at this stage, and they all looked at him, and they were like, bro! And he didn't say a word. He just goes, oh, lads. They're like, you were making some noise up there. And he goes, what was I saying? They're like, well, you were laughing for about 4 hours, but you shouting, and you were having an argument with someone too. And he just sat down, and they were all smoking at the time, and he just sat there and just looked around. And it was nothing but just like, wow.
Yeah.
That's all he could say, was just wow.
I wouldn't recommend taking them on your own, doing 6 grams on your own. Probably get somebody to watch it at least.
Yeah, trip sitter.
But there's certainly benefit to be had from these experiences.
Yeah.
And the research that's been done by Roland Griffiths and Johns Hopkins is staggering. You know?
They won't be using 6 grams either, like they do. I've read some of their clinical practices. Very small amounts. The same with the MDMA. Small amounts, and they have a therapist there who's trained both with the alternative medicine and with therapy, and they talk them through the events that unfold.
I believe that Roland Griffiths was on Jordan Peterson last week, and
was he?
I've only caught probably the first hour of the podcast now, and
no way!
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's really interesting. This Roland Griffiths guy is incredibly interesting anyway himself,
Yeah.
Very respected researcher, a neuroscientist, a behavioural scientist, and a consciousness researcher at Johns Hopkins.
Yeah.
But he's also a psychiatrist, I think, but really deep into the literature, really into the research rather than teaching. So he's been doing he's been leading that for the last, 20 years or something but he was talking about 5 grams, what they're giving especially people that are suffering with life-threatening illnesses like cancer,
Yes.
And what he was saying on Peterson was something like 70% of the people ranked it as in the top 5 experiences of their life, and something like 30% said it's the single most significant spiritual experience of their life. And these are people that are dying effectively, and have chronic anxiety and death anxiety.
That was one of the things I remember reading about. It was after the experiences, the acceptance of their terminal illness, or acceptance of whatever happened to them, on a good percentage of them, was just incredible. To accept something of your own mortality.
Yeah, I would do it justice now trying to explain the results of the studies, but it is just fascinating to hear these people talk about it the way they talk about it, and the results that are being achieved, and just what is it like? What is that experience? What's happening? They have no idea,
That's the fascinating thing about it, is that there is this aspect that there is beginning. It's no longer going to be labelled as alternative medicine. It will become medicine.
For sure.
They have to,
MAPS, the organisation in America run by a guy called Rich Doblin. It's called a Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Research.
Okay.
Or studies or something like that. He's been advocating for the therapeutic use of psychedelics and MDMA, mind you, for the last 30 or 40 years. And they're at phase 3 trials with the FDA at the moment for MDMA.
Wow.
In conjunction with psychotherapy. MDMA is ecstasy, you know what I mean? I mean, if I think back to my youth, I took ecstasy as a kid, you know what I mean? But it wasn't in a therapeutic way, But they're treating people with trauma and deep depression.
PTSD is a big one.
PTSD, yeah, and that will become legal soon. It'll be the first of their planned medicines to become legal, you know. The MDMA first, and I think psilocybin will come after it. Like, so they're at a very advanced stage, and they're getting a lot of investment from people like Rebecca Mercer, who's one of the main people in the Mercer Insurance Group, and billionaires. No, this is like Tim Ferriss has diverted all his investments away from early startups and tech into psychedelics. You know, since 2015.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's a huge advocate at the moment. There's loads of conversations with him on the internet, with Roland Griffiths actually.
Okay.
South by Southwest, I was listening to one of them recently. But not only him, like people like Peter Thiel, the guy who set up PayPal.
Yes.
He's another guy that set up a company called Compass Pathways, I think. And they're...
Where was I reading about him actually recently? It could have been Compass Pathways.
Yeah, they're doing work with Imperial College London, a guy called Robert Carhart Harris. And a guy called Professor David Nutt in the UK, who was actually an advisor for the UK government and got fired from his job because he was, trying to contrast and compare how that MDMA was not as detrimental to people's health like alcohol, for instance, that it was like not even in the same ballpark, you know. It was, because people, the media have sensationalized cases. Yeah. If you remember, like, what's it called, Leah Betts, there was a young girl. People have died from overdosing on MDMA and ecstasy. And again, I get that, like, you know.
Well, again, you can attribute that not to the qualities of the drug, but to the way that the market has expanded due to the criminalization of it, whereby the only place you can get it outside of these studies, which you're never going to get access to those drugs, is through illegal channels.
Yeah, and probably impure quality.
That is ferociously important, particularly like things like pills.
Yeah.
Like they're full of all sorts of things.
Yeah, and our kids are at risk of taking these
things
and getting,
the government's response is to turn a blind eye to it and then to condemn it if anything bad happens. Yeah. But then you have a lack of education because you can't approach kids about the drugs they're taking. And so we saw it on campuses. There's the SSDP, which is the Student Body for Sensible Drug Policy. They do a lot of work in a number of different universities around Ireland. I did a bit of work with them when I was in college. And they're trying to push this education-based agenda where it's no good to just criminalise these people because you can't help people when they do that, and you leave people more vulnerable. And those cases where you have these horror stories where people have died or had a reaction to it, a lot of the time it isn't the drug itself, it's people's reaction to it.
Yeah,
they put themselves into this.
Probably they're taking ecstasy and not drinking too much water or not drinking water and then dancing their head off for the night.
And then thinking their heart's getting out of control, their cortisol levels rise, they drive their heart out of control, and then have seizures and all sorts of things that follow up.
So for sure you have to acknowledge there's risks
100%
to taking these things, 100%. Yes. Like, but from a therapeutic perspective, people that are suffering with PTSD and trauma, early childhood trauma and the rest, people that have been raped and terrible things happen to people, abuse, like, there is tremendous potential to heal them with this stuff. And these guys are showing it, like the guys in MAPS and Imperial College London, New York University did those studies. These studies now are going on all over the world, and it's just accelerating at the moment. And it's only a matter of time, America kind of leads the way, and they've decriminalized things like psilocybin, which is magic mushrooms in America. States like
cannabis,
Washington, Denver. We were in Denver there 2 years ago, and there's dispensaries everywhere.
Yeah.
There's dispensaries. It's like a pharmacist, and these are things that have grown out of the ground.
Like
for centuries, and the people have used these for therapeutic reasons.
Thousands of years as well. Thousands of years.
But it's okay to take a pharmaceutical. Yeah. It's okay to be prescribed something like Oxycontin, which is effectively heroin for pain relief. Yeah. And people right across America have been addicted to Oxycontin, and that family, this Sackler family, who owned Purdue Pharma, like they are being sued by like something like 26 states in America because of their impact on the citizens in America. Because they got addicted to Oxycontin, they pulled Oxycontin off the market.
Yeah.
But not only that, people found it easier to get heroin, and fentanyl. So people that would never take a drug in their life, that was prescribed something by their doctor,
all of a sudden become...
Look, some of it is probably legitimate pain as well, like, you know what I mean? People had pain, this was effective at pain relief. People took it, they got addicted to it, then maybe they couldn't get their drug, or it was easier to get heroin, and these people would never have taken drugs, you know, street drugs, as you people know it. They would never take street drugs, and now they're on heroin and fentanyl, and they're dying, like.
They're the opioid crisis in America is off the charts, and a lot of people don't know about it because at the minute it's not being pushed, it's not on the forefront of the topics. Again, now part of that is because Big Pharma are involved in a lot of the major media companies, and so there's a silencing act going on there too. But equally, Big Pharma have all these different ways of deflecting blame, and it's interesting you said they're being sued by actual states. Because it's quite hard to sue a pharmaceutical company.
Well, it's the family, I think. I listened to an NPR podcast there recently on it, and apparently the family pulled all their money out of the business and they let the business go bankrupt. And then there was one particular judge or something, like, gave them amnesty, but like, and I think there was something with Trump leaving office as well, trying to settle it all up. Like, you know, these people in powerful places have a big reach, you know.
Did you ever see the Valentine Corporation?
No.
The Valentine, I think I'm right in saying Valentine. They bought the license to one vital drug for a particular condition that a lot of people have, X number of million people have in America. So no one else could produce this drug, and they just racked up the price of it to thousands of dollars a month for some people. And medical insurances began to not pay. If you had this condition, they wouldn't give you insurance. And there became this massive crisis that's still ongoing now at the minute. I think he was arrested. I think he may have served a little bit of time. Now, don't quote me on that. I would have to double check that information. But he's a drop in the ocean of all the boys that are profiteering off the backs of genuine sicknesses and not accepting any consequences or wanting to try and mediate any consequences.
No doubt there's a place for pharmaceuticals, for fuck's sake.
100%.
They're prolonging people's lives.
Look at the life expectancy is 80.
For sure, and you need
years.
pharmaceuticals to develop and research drugs, and then they patent the drugs, and then they sell the drugs at a very high price, you know, initially, but then it comes to the end of the patent, and what's called a patent cliff is what, you know, when the drug comes off patent, and then other companies can generically manufacture the drugs, and it becomes a lot cheaper for people, and then they've probably got stuff in the pipeline to replace it and all that kind of stuff. But there's a place for Big Pharma for sure. But I just think, like, you know, if the motivation is profit driven primarily, like, you know, it's just like the negative side effects of these things are downplayed.
Yes,
you know,
they are big time.
Like the case with OxyContin, like, you know.
It was interesting as well. I had a college lecturer tell us one day, could have been in sociology. Her claim was that pharmaceutical companies were looking for an easy, marketable drug, and they said, "Well, what's around at the minute? Like, what do a lot of people think that they have?" And they were like, "Well, attention deficit disorder was on the rise." And said, "Oh, ADD. A lot of people have ADD. Well, let's see. Can we create a drug to solve this problem? So if everyone has, all people have ADD." They wrote down, and she did this out on the board now. She was ADD for everyone, ADD for all, ADD for all, Adderall, Ritalin, and that's apparently where she was claiming where Adderall got its name, was the marketing ADD for everyone, ADD for all, Adderall, and this was the solution. This magic drug for healthy children who they were framing as being unhealthy and problematic in the classroom and not sitting quiet or overly disruptive, running around, and they've got ADD.
That sounds like me, man. Like, I mean...
I think it sounds like a lot of people.
That sounds like me, man. I got thrown out of school when I was 15, I think. Like, in second year.
Out!
Come on. I was only a child, man. So I don't know what it was. It was messing in the class. It wasn't anything really serious when I think back of it, what memories I have, you know. And my mother tried to get me into schools, man, and she couldn't get me into any school. eventually she got me into it at school for bad kids, Father Rocks, inside town. If you ever, like, I'm a good few years older than you now. What age are you?
23.
23. I'm 42. I'm 43 on May 24th. So I'm twice your age, right?
Yeah.
And I went to this school in town, which was like, you know, helping kids from, you know,
disadvantaged areas.
Yeah, disadvantaged areas, and kids from broken homes, and, you know, kids that were caught up, you know, stealing cars and houses and, you
petty
know,
crimes.
Petty crimes, you know. So I would have been in that school with them, and I wasn't doing anything like that. I wasn't breaking into houses or anything like that. Like, you know what I mean? I just couldn't find a school. Like, not saying there was, you know, these kids had some rough upbringings, you know what I mean? And they were exposed to this sort of stuff at a young age, which led them into that life, you know. But I eventually got into another school, and I don't know, did I leave just before my junior cert? I just wasn't able to, I don't know, was I not able to learn? And it was that stuff that was happening at home, because my house was quite chaotic when I think back. But like, I left school before junior cert, man. I had no education.
Serious?
Zero education. No junior cert, no leaving cert. I went back to study business studies in CIT when I was, I think, 19 or 20.
Yeah.
As a mature adult. Would I be mature? Probably 21, thinking.
Yeah, probably would have been up
I might have been
age,
21 because I'm sure it was a mature adult. Like, I didn't have to get my leaving cert to do it.
Yeah.
But like, I struggled, and I did the first year, and I dropped out.
Okay.
And then I went back maybe a year and a half later and did purchasing and materials management in School of Com.
Yeah.
And I did the first year and I did the second year. And Jesus, I passed the exams, but I barely passed the exams. I mean, I like, even to this day, I still struggle with retaining stuff, you know. I just don't think I've had that how to learn, you know. I haven't learned the basics, you know. But
again, now if you were around in this day and age, they would have filled you full of drugs and kept you in the classroom and given you a big list of what's wrong with you. Yeah. And that list, however about struggling now maybe to learn or whatever setbacks that dropping out of school caused you, you would instead in this day and age carry a lifelong stigma of all these disabilities you must have, and this is why you're never going to succeed, but it's okay because you have a list explaining what's wrong with you, and you're going to be stuck to this list. At the very least, what happened when you didn't have school was that you had to now rely on yourself, but you didn't have any, other than maybe, I think a lot of people deal, because I've known people who've dropped out and they think that they're at a disadvantage to everyone because everyone else must be automatically smarter than them because they finished school.
That's the story of my life.
And that plays on people as well.
Probably the critic in my head all my life, you know what I
mean? And it gives the critic...
capable.
Yes.
You're not able. I must just...
no panic as well, work away.
But you know, the internal critic is the worst critic of all. Like,
and you see, the problem is as well is that now that critic is a very valid argument. Because it says you didn't finish school. And not just didn't finish school, you don't even have a junior cert.
Yeah.
And you have to wrestle with that forever. Yeah. And you go, oh, I do deserve to work a crappy job forever because I don't have the brains to do anything else.
I remember that feeling of going into interviews and nobody knew it but me. Yeah. You know what I mean? But like, I suppose I just...
Do you reckon it stopped you getting jobs you wanted?
Yeah, I fucked up in interviews. I'd say loads of times.
And you would have made yourself screw up, I'd say.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, but maybe I just didn't have the, you know.
Because I know two people now at the minute, young girls, who have both dropped out. And they say it and they're not looking for me to comment because they've heard it 1,000 times now already at this stage because they've already both dropped out at this point. And first of all, it's not my business anyway. It's nothing to do with me. You don't get on in school, no problem. I'm not judging you. I'm not here to judge you. But the only thing I want to tell them is don't think you're stupid now because you didn't finish.
Yeah. Well, there's other ways, man. There's a lot of people that are very successful in this world that haven't got a formal education.
Yeah.
You know? The tradition.
But I think a lot of people don't know them because they don't tell people about it very often.
Yeah, yeah.
You do hear stories about people who drop out of college and they run multi-million-dollar businesses.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm sure there's those people there. But you hear it about Bill Gates or there was Steve Jobs as well. Bill Gates is one of the common ones where they're like, oh, he dropped out of university and da. But
He's a
yeah, he
genius.
dropped out of Harvard. Like, it's not that he dropped out of your local community college. Like,
he dropped out to start the fucking
exactly. Like,
company in the world.
So you have to take all those stories with their merit as well.
Yeah.
But now you're sitting here at 42, 43, you said?
I'm 43 on the 24th of May.
With your own business. You did it.
But it's a long time coming, man.
It's a long time coming, but it came.
But I didn't have, you see, I always wanted to do something for myself. You know, I remember this feeling since I was like probably 30. You know, I said always, but like I remember this real feeling that like I want to do something for myself.
Yeah.
You know, so I've had that inside me for a long time. And I think the catalyst for me to do something, because there was a lot of fear.
Yes.
And I didn't have an idea to do anything. I didn't have, I was like, how do people come up with ideas to do stuff, you know? Yeah. And I wasn't confident, you know, in my ability, probably, you know what I mean? But like, what I've learned with starting my own business was like, everybody's capable if they do the work, you know? If you're determined to do something, you learn how to do it.
There's a formula.
There is.
You can follow that back.
No one's going to do it for you, though.
Yeah.
You're the one that's going to have to do it. You're going to have to do the work. And no, you know, it just doesn't magically appear. And like the hours that I put into here, nobody's going to pay, you know.
What got you up off your back to go do it, though?
My child. The birth of my child. You know, these significant things. These significant milestones.
You wanted to be more for your child?
Oh, I don't know, man. Just something. She was born in 2016, and she was born in August 2016, and by the 1st of January 2017, I still remember sitting down deciding I'm going to do this thing, because I had floating in my head probably a year and a half, 2 years. It's been in my head since Melbourne.
Yeah.
And it was in my head, and I did a bit of research the previous year. And I was like, fucking hell, 40 grand for a tank? No. Yeah, and like more if you want really advanced technology. 50 grand? Oh, I can't do this. You can't make money off this. This is ridiculous. And I didn't have the money anyway, like. But when she was born in August, I remember fucking the 1st of January, I was like, I'm doing this. I don't give a damn. And I knew, you know, if I put my heart and soul into it, I know it'll be fine. And that was a major factor. I think the catalyst was the birth of her. And probably just like, if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. Do you know, because I'm getting older, you know. If I don't do it now, I'm going to be working in the same line of work. I was working in supply chain, you know, and I worked for a few multinationals around the place. And the money was alright, like. The money wasn't, I thought the money was good, but it was only alright, man. And it wasn't for the money I was doing it. It's like, what am I going into this place? I hate coming in here every day. Yeah. Absolutely hated it. And pretended to myself that I liked doing what I was doing. I didn't like what I was doing at all. When I reflect back in it, I only did it because I thought I had to do it. Yes. Do you know? But I made up my mind on the 1st of January, I'm going to fucking open this business. I don't give a damn. And I know if I put my heart into it, and if it's not about the money, which it wasn't, because I had some savings, I was like, okay, I'm going to put all my money into it, and I'm going to try my best. And if I fail, I fail. But if I succeed, I succeed. And it'll be on the effort that I put into it, you know. And by the 16th of December, I had the doors open. And I'd spent everything. The bank had given me a ton of money, and I don't know. They gave me money because I put a good enough business plan together. Yeah. You know, and I said, look, this is what I want to do. I see people around the world doing it. You know, it's really successful in some places, you know. Some people aren't doing it so right, but other people are doing it really right. I'm determined to do this. And I did the market research. I went to the local enterprise office. I did a few, I did start your own business course there, which was very helpful. It was a kind of a grounding in the fundamentals, you know.
Where was that course with?
It was Cork City Local Enterprise.
Okay. And how long did that run for?
It was a 6-week course, probably every Saturday or something. I think 1 day a week. Okay. And people thought I was mad. I was telling people what I was doing, floating. Nobody heard about floating before. Nobody heard. Only people that listened to Joe Rogan heard about floating, you know, or a few diehards. Like there was float centres in Cork years ago. What? Yeah. There was a float centre in Douglas Street years ago. So there are some people around Cork that were aware of it, you know, that floated down there. And there's some people actually. There's been a few customers of mine actually had float tanks and have still float tanks and
Wow.
float very regularly. One particular business guy, he's a finance guy. He is so into. He's into floating for pain relief. He's floating probably 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was coming in here nearly every day, 3 times a week.
While also having his own one at home.
His own float tank broke down, and he was coming in here like, and then eventually he got his tank set up, and he asked me to let him. I got him some salt.
Yeah.
I got him some Epsom salt. I put him onto the guy I was getting it off of, and he set up his tank. So I haven't seen him in a while. But he's been a fierce advocate for this place.
Yeah.
Every time I meet him, he's going, I'm sending everybody down to you. And every now and again, he'll buy a voucher off me, like, you know.
Yeah.
Like, he swears by it. And I have a few customers there, like, that are just doctors and stuff. And they see the potential of this thing.
Yeah.
Just in terms of being supportive for their own life. You know? It's an interesting line of work to be involved in, man. I would never come across the people I've come across if I hadn't opened the place, you know.
It's almost a cult following to it, where the people who are in it are in it. It's like jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
When you meet people who are into their jiu-jitsu, they are all jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, there's either floaters or no floaters. And like in the float, there's a huge float industry across the world right now. I mean, there's probably more than 1,000 centres, and that's growing at a phenomenal rate. You know, even in Ireland, like there's a scene here. You know, there's people opening up float centres, but like there's some people in America doing really good work.
Well, back in 2010, there was a handful of float centres in the entire North America, and by 2020, I'd have to look up the figures again. 2017, I think it was. There was 500 registered float centres. So in a handful of years, it had just exploded. And there was even a period where float tanks, when they first sort of reached the commercial market, they kind of dipped out, and people think it wouldn't come back. There was a rise in a concern for something.
There was an initial boom, probably in the 80s, you know. And there was one tank centre in California, and they had something like 17 tanks. Huge float centre, so it was hugely popular in the 80s. And I think when the AIDS epidemic came around,
that was it. That was it.
It crashed. Now some centres survived, you know, but I think people were concerned about floating in water with other people that may have the disease, you know. But it came back then probably late noughties, you know. 2009, 2010. Float centres started emerging again, and like in the last 4 or 5 years, it's just. I mean, in Melbourne now, there's loads of float centres. Beautiful places. Really high-end places. Perth are really into float. Australia in general, Australians are hugely into it.
All the chill people.
Places like Vancouver, Portland, you know. It's fascinating to watch. Like, I mean, there was a float centre in Cork before us, and they closed their business. And I wasn't even. When they opened up, I was like, "Oh, I can't do this. No, somebody else is." That self-critic came into my head. Like, somebody else is doing it now, and
that's it. The market's gone. Like,
I can't do it. Like, you know. But I persevered. I said, "No, focus on what you're doing yourself now." And
it's not about who did it first. It's about who did it right.
No, look, there's so many people in Cork. So, you know, the county is huge. There's 5 million people in the country. We need to float everybody. We need more float centres, and you know, we need people to benefit from this natural therapy that is extremely healing. You know,
we really do. People need it, man. People really need it. Like now more than ever, the crisis in meaning and the crisis in people's own lives, and the reliance then on what pharmaceutical drugs if they're struggling, or maybe exercise or begin to come around, and maybe fix your diet a small bit, and then things will improve, and focus on your sleep and get your fundamentals right. But this is another level again.
It is, and it's an easy way to kind of like easy way to kind of access self-care, you know, and really start to look at the way you're living, you know. I mean, you talked about exercise there and sleep, you know,
diet as well,
nutrition. These are fundamentals.
They are fundamentals, and they're not talked about.
Fundamentals, man. These are the things that like give you psychological well-being, you know. And then the meditation, I wish, they would have taught, I wish somebody came into our school and taught me meditation as a young kid.
But they did, but the problem was he was in a priest's robe and he got you to say the Hail Mary.
Yeah.
See, that was the equivalent of it.
Yeah, maybe. But I know there's good teachers in the country that are advocating for these things, and the mental health crisis that's going on at the moment, you see it every day on Instagram, man, look.
It's real worrying,
Yeah. My own father committed suicide. My own father took his own life at 67.
Whoa.
Yeah, so later on in life, yeah. And my poor mother.
That's very unusual.
Yeah, my poor mother suffered an awful lot because of it. She got dementia, and she only died recently in January, 23rd January, in a nursing home, which we couldn't visit her.
No,
we couldn't visit her. So there's a lot of what you call it, tragic circumstances around my own family that has impacted me and my sisters and brothers and sisters, and the wider family. I mean, cancer as well as, my aunties and uncles have died of cancer, and my brother has had something there recently with a prostate, is it?
Prostate, yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully he'll be fine, but I don't know, man. You've got to look after your health.
Yeah.
It's the number one thing, you first before everybody else, and if you look after you might have some capacity to look after the people you love around you.
Only when you're in fighting working order can you actually have the energy to help support people.
Have reserve, man. Yeah. And that's my focus now, man. For the second half of my life, my focus is on how do I optimize myself as a human being.
Yeah, optimizing. That's a good way of looking at it.
I want to live till I'm 95, man.
Yeah.
I don't want to die when I'm 67 of cancer or, you know what I mean? I don't want to get these, this can happen to us. We can get cancer, we can get dementia. But
we can get depressed.
We can get depressed, we can lose a job and have severe anxiety.
Yeah.
But there's hope for all of us. And I think that only comes with reflecting on the things that you're grateful for.
Just about to bring it back to gratitude.
It has to be. It's like you are alive now. You're healthy. Yeah, I'm 43. Some people might think I'm almost dead. But I've only just woken up. And the opportunity and the potential for the rest of my life is enormous.
Yeah.
Do you know? And the potential for me to have a meaningful and positive impact on my family.
Yeah.
My kids. My girl is 5 in August, and I have a little boy who is 12 weeks old. Last Friday.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it is a joy. It is a joy to see them. I see them. One will be asleep when I go home, but I'll see the boy for an hour before I go to bed. And my only regret now about today is that I'm not home early for them, But I'll chisel out time for them now over the next few days, And that's man, I'm so grateful that they're healthy.
It was one thing about this corona that irked me the most was that it was the perfect opportunity to put it back onto people to fix their health and to focus on their health now, where they could have come out with a variety of guidelines relating to your health and physical well-being, and they didn't. They bottled it, and the encouragement was to stay inside, stay isolated.
Yeah,
it felt like a golden opportunity to fix the obesity crisis that's rising.
We've been very conservative in this country, man. Extremely conservative, and we're a very docile country.
We are, we're passive. We're passive.
We're very compliant, man, and I get it. There was an overwhelming situation in hospitals.
100%.
Many of my customers are nurses and doctors. So I get it. There was severe constraints. But the government, I don't know, man, their narrative was fear-based.
It was, yeah.
And I was afraid myself, at the start.
At the beginning.
There was real anxiety about, oh my God, is this thing going to kill us or what? And that can happen, man. I understand that there's epidemics,
that do wipe out civilizations.
The next one could be horrendous, so we have to learn a lot from it.
But we haven't set the foundations now to learn from the next time. Because now we've ingrained on
I don't think
people.
we fucking learn anyway, man. You know, if you look at what's going on, even with the housing crisis at the moment.
And it's the last screw up was only a few years ago, like 10 years ago, if even.
It's like, am I living in the Twilight Zone?
Like Groundhog Day.
It's like, so ridiculous, like,
yeah.
you know. And I don't know, it's the nature of politics, it's the nature of the kind of people in politics and whose pockets are they in, you know, and who are their friends and what's really important, you know. I mean, for me, what's really important is the citizens of this country, you know, and their health and general well-being, and that's what it should be geared towards. And then you hopefully bring everybody up together because those people on the streets need to be helped.
Big time.
People that are, you know, scraping a living together, they need to be supported. And if you can take care of everybody's basic needs, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you can take care of the food, the shelter, the safety, the security, hopefully you get people to that next level and they start building a self-esteem. And maybe I can do something for myself. Maybe I can first support myself. And grow and learn as a person, and then support my community, you know. But yeah, I don't know. Like I'm dismayed at politics. I've never been interested in it, but like I really want to buy a house for my family, you know, at this stage of my life, you know. And I'm renting for the last 17 years. Yeah. And you know, I missed the boat on probably getting a house before the crash in 2007, 2008, when houses were like 3-bedroom semi-detached for 300,000.
That was what I was going to say. You didn't miss the boat. You missed the bullet.
Dude, I couldn't afford.
You would have been still paying that for the next.
I couldn't afford 300 grand then, and like, you know, I can't afford it now. You know, like, you know, hopefully with time and the business growing and me, you know, hopefully, you know, earning more money through the business, that I can afford a house, like, you know, but at the moment there's not even supply there. There's no
there's none there. Yeah.
And then what people are fighting over freaking houses that are substandard, you know, really poor quality, and they're paying 300,000 for them, 360,000.
Madness, like.
It's crazy. Like, and like there's these cuckoo funds now that I hear about coming in, competing against people that are buying houses. They're buying up entire housing estates. Yeah.
Now they've tried to bring in that 10% stamp duty to try and counteract that.
Yeah. So I've got an interest in politics at the moment, and I just think we've the wrong people in politics. And
it's that aspect of politics there where you said that they're sort of disconnected, is when you think then on terms of bringing in a new culture of looking towards alternative medicines, and the resistance that's there is not because they've looked at the data and they said this is unhealthy for society. It's because they're totally blank to it. They don't. There's a weird that culture that's in politics. I don't know what it is. It's a very unusual.
I don't know what would motivate you. I can't imagine wanting that job. You know. I think the people who should be in those jobs should be the people that don't want the jobs. You know, that are people that are like just. But will do it first. You know,
the good of society, almost like a sacrifice.
Yeah.
And that sort of keeps that sort of level playing field where they remain in touch with the society and with the citizens of it, because they're not looking for whatever else politicians seem to be getting from the industry.
What is the motivation behind it? Like, you know what I mean? Power.
That's an easy one. You see, because I don't want to sound like we're dumping on them because it's easy to dump on them.
No, there's good people in there as well. Like I've
but the good gets stifled by the culture that's
like
there.
It's like these independents and, you know...
Mick Flint.
Mick Barry, is it?
Mick...
I don't know. I'm going to watch more of it, but I was watching the Oireachtas last night, and, you know, this past week I've been tuning into what they're saying. Like, I'm listening to some podcasts that I really enjoy. Reboot Republic, Rory Hearn, his name is. He's a professor in Maynooth, and he's doing great work, just advocate or letting people know what's going on, you know. David McWilliams, the economist, is the same, and his podcast is David McWilliams' podcast. He's an economist. He's been predicting the crash for the last 20 years, you know. Yeah. And there's another crash coming. Like, it's as if you see what's going on. Like, people are outbidding each other by 30, 40, 50 grand, and it's like it's just only a matter of time.
And we're seeing it even with. I dabble a bit with the stock markets, because one of my housemates now is big into it. Shout out Market Movers. He's got a page going and he's doing his best to sort of connect with people. Market Movers, yeah. So he's sort of tracking market trends. I'm
scared of the market.
It's a terrifying place, but it's a lot of fun though.
It's like a lottery machine, is it?
What we've been seeing is that even when the major companies announce fantastic earnings where they beat their predictions, their stock price barely moves, and in some cases they even fall 0.5%. And that's because the market is exhausted. There's no more funds to go into it. And when you see situations like that arising, it's indicators for potential crashes coming down the line. And then you've got Biden is after pumping $6 trillion into the economy. The Americans' inflation chart has gone off into space. There's a risk of hyperinflation, which has wiped out every economy it's ever hit. It's sort of bubbling away behind the background. Now the Dow fell again recently, and the banks, big American banks, have come out and said they're not going to raise interest rates until they're trying to hold off for as long as possible for their long-term rates to go up. Because if that happens, now I'm not an economist. I'm giving you a very, very brief rundown of what happens, but it stagnates the market to a degree where the inflation has devastating consequences. And everything's sort of in a limbo at the minute surrounding the American economy, which obviously pours into further afield. And then when we see our own problem with housing again, and we see what effectively was a bubble that never fully popped after 2008, the price of houses never really stabilised, particularly around Dublin.
They did drop, going back to 2012, 13, 14, there's probably not much building going on, but houses were selling at a reasonable price, but there was no new supply coming into the market. You know? I know they're just drip feed them in now,
You've a new big estate even across from your business there.
Right across, sure, 550,000 for houses, who can
mad money,
who affords these, and there's houses out the road there that's 650 in an estate now, 680, and then there's another estate with 750, and they're lovely detached houses, and I would love one of them. But it's like a housing estate of 20 houses, so you have a normal backyard in front, not like a plot of land, but 700,000.
For a stay house,
who's affording that? This is the 10% of these are the high earners,
pricing everyone else out of the economy. And that's what's happened in LA and California. The homeless crisis is going out in there because there's a two-tier economy that's running side by side. You have the mega wealthy who are causing the price of rent to skyrocket and the price of land and houses to skyrocket. And then you've got the majority, which are just trying to make a living. They're working at your local cafe and your restaurants.
Yeah.
And they're all getting priced out of the markets.
The
majority of people are in that category. I want to bring it back to the tanks there again for a minute because it was something that kind of struck me and I'm not joking when I ask this, is there a weight limit for people that can come in?
There isn't, and it's funny, I just got asked that question yesterday or the day before, and we've had some really large gentlemen and women in there. One particular large gentleman, he was probably 20 odd stone, big man, and our water levels was a little bit low on that day, and he told me his butt hit off the floor.
Yeah.
So what's really important for us is that we continually top up our water, and do not let it drop. 11 inches, 10.5, 11 inches, and you'll be grand. It doesn't matter what size you are. You'll be fine. You'll get a comfortable float. You won't be touching the bottom. The Epsom salt water will fully support your body from the...
That's amazing.
Yeah. But it's the density of salt is it's twice the density of the salt water in the Dead Sea.
Yes, I was reading that.
It flows comfortably in the Dead Sea, but in there we we throw 4 or 5 bags of salt into the tanks every week.
Yeah.
And the water 50, 60, 70 litres per tank per week, because water is constantly being pulled out of it and evaporating, and salt is being pulled out on people's bodies and hair, So, but there's no real...
That's interesting now, because they were sort of a group that I imagined could avail of it, because a lot of them have aches and pains in the lower extremities, certainly.
Yeah. And I think, pregnant women get a lot out of it.
Yes. That's actually...
My own partner was floating every week there just before she gave birth to Kyle, and we got a lot of expectant moms in here.
And particularly with back pain, I'd say. Taking that pressure off.
Pain. Yeah, just take the whole pain off. pressure off your body, you know.
Because it's an interesting sensation is when you're breathing through it and you're beginning to feel your body relax. It's almost as if there's like two pulling forces at every sort of every part of your body that's
like
just stretching
or something. Like
yeah. And it's such a nice sensation.
Yeah, I find like there's some studies there, and I was looking at them. Like I printed all the studies, and I have them up there for people to read if they're interested.
Mm-hmm.
But when you were in floating, I was just kind of looking over some of the results of the research, and it's fascinating to read. Like, you know, this is one of the things here. I can't remember what study was this. But these are the things people were saying, like a feeling of total serenity and peacefulness, total relaxation of the body without any muscle tension, feeling completely refreshed, like the reset button was hit. I mean, that's what I get every time I get in the tank, whether it's a good float or a bad float. It's like a reset button for me, you know. Total pain-free existence, a feeling of flow with the world around you. That's almost like a psychedelic experience.
It is, yeah, that's what it sounds like there.
Complete silence of mind without any anxious thoughts or worries. A strong feeling of appreciation that you are alive. Heightened focus and ability to concentrate. That's the focus I get. Like a friend of mine owns a float centre in Galway, Jason Best. Shout out to Jason Best. Good guy. He was telling me last year. He gave me this kind of thing that I stuck in my head, and it's the 5 what is it? F's, 5 F's. Do you ever hear of it?
No.
You know, it's almost like covering all your bases in terms of your life, like, you know, family, fitness, focus, like in your meditation, you know, financial, and I said fitness already. Friendship, yeah. And, yeah, because one is escaping, you know. I don't think family, focus, fitness, maybe friendship. But anyway, it's like the focus for me is the meditation.
Yeah.
You know, that time in the tank is my ability, my opportunity to practice focusing. You know, and meditate.
Is there ever something you focus on?
I'm just a breath. Like he sent me on this. Jay actually is a good guy for putting me in the right direction. He sent me onto this book called The Mind Illuminated, and it's all about meditation. So I've been trying to like.
I think I have that on my reading list. I think
really
that's there.
Really interesting. So I get frustrated with meditation just like anybody else. You know, I go through periods of like, what am I doing here? Like, you know, this is a waste of time. Like, but when I don't do it, you know, I notice the difference in my day-to-day life, you know, and when I do it, I notice the benefits. Like,
it's like I'd say that as well. When if people start living healthy, but the first one I get them, if they drink 2 to 3 liters of water every day for 2 weeks, the one day then you don't have your usual amount of water, you'll feel cranky, you'll get headachy, you'll be grumpy. And what it is because your body is acclimatized to running at an optimal level. And when you start adding more of those sort of attributes of life, which is sleep, another one, nutrition, as we talked earlier, meditation is here where you have now all these factors that benefit you. Once your body gets used to running on these higher levels of system, these improved systems, when you start taking them away, your body goes, what are you doing? We're running here, we're smooth, we're flowing here. Don't interrupt me.
100%. And that I feel that as well. I don't know if they're talking about like when there's been resistance to movement and exercise throughout the lockdowns, like, you know, with not having access to a gym, you know, and I went through periods of like just eating chocolate every day and drinking too much coffee and tea and not eating healthy, like, you know, and then there'll be moments where I just get my shit together, you know what I mean, and the discipline is like hard at the start. It's so hard at the start, especially if you've been living unhealthily, but slowly over time it's like muscle building, you know, whether it's the practice in the meditation or the good food, you know, good protein intake to recover from just normal walking around. You need enough protein, like, you do. You know what I mean? So and Kieran, a good friend of mine, would have set me straight.
Kieran O'Regan.
Shout
out Kieran O'Regan. He's a good man. I had him on the podcast.
Yeah. Very interesting conversation. I listened to that. Like, Kieran would have set me straight on, like, you know, you need, you know, 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per kilo.
Yes,
so I've been really sticking to that, you know, and getting good sources of it, like, you know, lean, you know, meat.
Yeah.
And just the way I feel when I do that, like, over a period of time, I want it.
Yeah, I get that.
It's like I fuel now, I'm going to work out.
I've been getting like that with jiu-jitsu. So I had a bad week of jiu-jitsu about 3 weeks ago, where I hadn't eaten properly for the 2 days prior to training, and I was feeling a bit lethargic, and I was feeling unfocused on the day of training, and training. Whoops. Well, it's out there now. Shout out Underground, my boys.
Why haven't I been invited?
And I went and I got my ass handed to me.
Yeah.
I wasn't on form. I was grumpy. I found myself getting frustrated and angry, getting tapped. And I was like, no. Next week, I'm not having this feeling again. So the day before, I started priming myself, eating, making sure all my meals went in, all my fruit, all my veg. Right, I have my minerals, have my vitamins taken. Yeah, good. The day of training, boom, all the usual. 2 meals in before I went to training, and I was on fire. I was on fire. The difference was just astronomical.
And sleep as well.
Major sleep.
Make sure you get the sleep. And the sleep means you just gotta go to bed early, man. If you're getting up early, you gotta get to bed early. And it's hard sometimes, you know.
It is hard.
If you're working late or anything like that, you know.
It's a big thing I've noticed as well, particularly with weightlifting. The lack of sleep is really noticeable because you'll go in and just not be able to move the weight that you were able to move even 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And you'll be pissed and you'll be like, maybe it's the time of the day, did I eat properly today? And if you actually track it back, it's usually not the night prior to that, but the night before that again is when a bad night's sleep there will impact at day 2, I've noticed.
Yeah.
And I've had fellas training, Tolga, I had him on the podcast as well, he's a European bodybuilding champion. I had him chatting to him one day in the gym, and he was real down. He's like, I can't do it, man. I don't know what's wrong with me. And I was like, well, tell me, what have you been doing today? What about, I'm working real hard, and he's studying medicine, so I'm worn out now, okay. And are you sleeping? No, I mean, maybe I got 3 hours last night, and maybe 2 hours the night before. I'm like, bro, you're a doctor. You know why you're not lifting properly. You're not sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, you could be onto something.
Sometimes you don't even notice.
You don't even notice it.
I mean, like, maybe the best thing to do there is when you're compromising sleep is just go for a walk, get out and get some fresh air, you know, brisk walking or a little light run or something like that, and start again the next day, you know, and just start with the basics.
Yeah.
Start with one meal and build on it, like, you know what I mean, and get your sleep and start exercise. You got to move the body, I think, like, you know. These are fundamentals, I think, to long health or good health and longevity, like, you know what I mean. And if we want to live healthy for as long as possible, you have to exercise. It's as simple as that. But you can start small. You know? Everybody can exercise, and you can start small. But I know it can be hard for people, like, you know, lacking in motivation. I've been there myself.
And what's your sort of training? What training do you enjoy? What's your go-to?
I love jiu-jitsu. I haven't trained jiu-jitsu in over a year. So I missed that, but then my body would be jacked over it as well unless I do the supporting stuff like yoga and stretching and stuff like that, you know, and getting in the float tank helped me a lot from recovering from the jiu-jitsu. But like, I love that kind of movement. I love no-gi. I love gi as well, but no-gi, I love it because I can, you know, sometimes move a little bit faster than a bigger guy, you know.
Yeah.
But just I've really started to enjoy bodyweight works. Like I started
calisthenics kind of work.
Yeah, pull-ups every day, and that's what I've been doing since probably the 1st of April now. So probably 6 weeks now of almost training every day.
Yeah.
You know, so days
good,
I
man.
want almost every day. Like there might be 5 or 6 out of 7.
That's good. That's very good.
And it's like bodyweight squats, single leg split squats, push-ups, pull-ups, bar rows, trying to just mix it up a bit, like, you know, I put up a little chin-up bar in the jacks, you might have seen it, like, and
I didn't notice that,
just
no.
every time I pass under it, like, it's
you
just 5 chin-ups. And over time you notice yourself getting stronger.
Yeah, 100%.
And then you get, like, when you go back to jiu-jitsu, you might be confident in your body actually staying together.
Yeah.
Rather than, because I do have issues with my knees when I don't do the strength and conditioning. They start to pop.
Yeah.
You know, around. I've had some scary experiences like on the mat, like where my leg locked up, like, you know, and it's like maybe my meniscus popping out or something like that. Like, you know, I don't know exactly. I've got scans in it. Back in Australia, it started happening the first time. I was in a jiu-jitsu club over there, and I was on the floor for like an hour. So I really have to do the strength and conditioning stuff to do
again
jiu-jitsu.
the fundamentals have to be in there.
I can't. If I want to play jiu-jitsu, I have to do the strength and conditioning. I have to do that work, you know. But once you get into it, then you enjoy it.
You do,
I love moving in general. I love the way it makes me feel like.
That's a big thing now that's been missing. I can't wait to get back into the gym. But pre-COVID, your training, was it similar to what you're doing now? Was it absent? Was it gym based?
I would have been in Cafe Move. My buddy Robbie owns a gym, or owned a gym. He closed it during the pandemic. He decided to close the business. But Cafe Move every morning, my routine would have been up at 6 in the gym for 7.
That's good.
7 to 8, we'd have a kind of almost shared training, you know, where Robbie would lead a class of 12 or 13 or 14, you know, and mobility stuff, strength and conditioning, a lot of, you know, pull-ups, push-ups, that kind of stuff. So that would have been every morning, and a yoga class on Friday morning. That would have been the routine. Monday to Thursday, Robbie's classes, and then on a Friday the yoga class in the morning. And then going back a bit, I would have gotten the tank then soon after that, you know. I skipped the coffee break and come down, got the tank, and then opened the business, you know, for the first floater. And then jiu-jitsu whenever I could, you know, 3-4 nights a week.
In Cafe Move again, you were training upstairs,
Cork, 3-4 nights, and then like you get into runs of 5 days a week, you know what I mean? And then if you pay attention to the strength and conditioning, you can do that. Like if you start fucking up in your sleep or your food,
body begins to break.
Your body starts to break down,
real fast,
like, you know, and you know it, like, you know, you're just not on when you're on the mat, like, you know.
What level are you at in jiu-jitsu?
I'm a blue belt. I got my blue belt about 4 years ago, 5 years ago at this stage now. Okay. I'd say 5 years ago. And I just love it. Yeah. I just love the crack. I love the people. I love the feeling during, after. I love the butterflies going up the stairs. Like, what kind of a day is it going to be today? And maybe have some success, you know, and the successes are great, like, you know.
They are great when they come, because you go through months and years without getting much success on the mats. Jiu-jitsu is one of those real slow burners where you get molested for the first while.
It's so humbling, like, especially as a newcomer to jiu-jitsu, and, you know, if you fancy yourself in terms of being strong.
You're going to get your ass handed to you. By someone half your size.
Don't go in there with that attitude. Whatever size you are, go in there really respectful. And open to learning and letting smaller people tap you out.
Yes, be willing to tap.
Because they'll tap you out if they're good enough. They'll tap you out.
And if you don't tap, they're going to hurt you. And it won't be their fault.
And you want to, if the goal is to go back to class.
Not after 6 months, like.
But I love the buzz. I mean, nothing like on a Friday or a Wednesday night, training and coming down here and floating afterwards was like sweet, you know. Maybe a bit of CBD or something else, you know. Just
and then the thing was,
calm down the nervous system.
That is your job, like. And that's the other thing. You've melded this thing beautifully together.
I created it for myself first of all. I'm my own. I am the best customer of this place. Number one, I built it for myself. Number two, I want to share it with as many people as I can, you know.
And this is interesting. This is exciting how you've said this, because along the lines of the people who have had their own businesses that have been on the podcast, you had Stephen Winters designed his own barbershop.
Yeah.
Colin Marr.
He's a member here.
Is he? No, he was.
He was a great member.
Yeah.
Good member. And his
also had trouble in school.
Partner,
I was going to bring that up back in that part of the conversation.
Isabel as well.
Isabel, yeah.
She's a member.
Colin Marr built his own MMA gym back home. It's now SBG at Clonmel.
Right.
Again, built it how he wanted a gym to look. And now yourself, you've built this how you would want this to feel. And what happens is by building it to your standard, when you have a passion for something, you create something that attracts people.
Yeah.
And if someone is attracted to it, they've actually been attracted to almost a part of your personality. And it creates an automatic bond with customers and with the business owners. And Stephen notices quite distinctly now in his business where the barbershop is where people come again for an experience, not just to get their hair cut.
Yeah.
And it seems to be something, because a lot of people will tell you that when you're starting out with business, find what the market wants you to have and try and tend to the customer. And maybe that works if you don't have a unique idea. But even when running the podcast, they're asking, are you watching this podcast, that podcast? Oh, he does it very well. You should read about him. I'm like, okay. But then I feel I'm going to be influenced too much by other ideas, and I just want to run a podcast the way I want to run a podcast. And if you like it, great. I'm going to connect with you real well. And if you don't like it, cool. I'm all right with that. And it seems to be a mark again of people who have set their own businesses of putting themselves into the business.
Yeah, I like my motivation to set up this place was not financial. It really was almost like it was like it's hard to say. It was a lifestyle,
Yeah. Find a place where I can float, and if I make money, happy days.
Yeah, that was the number one thing. Like, I just want to float, right?
Yeah.
And if I can make a bit of money and sustain a living, great.
Yeah.
Great, I'll take that.
Yeah.
But I also, in the back of my head, knew it was an opportunity.
Yes.
I knew there was a real business here, and I did my research, But I first and foremost didn't want to work for somebody. Now, and I'm not saying at some stage in my future I might have to go and work for somebody. Hopefully not. Because I've worked for people before. I've worked for large companies, and it's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to work for myself. And my success and my failure will be all dependent on the level of effort I put in. And it'll be on me. So if I take my eye off the ball, then maybe the business fails. But I'm not planning on taking my eye off the ball. I have 2 kids now that I need to be there for, and hopefully, give them the best shot at life. That's my motivation. It's almost a higher purpose than myself. But I first got to be selfish with myself.
Yeah.
I've got to be selfish and look after myself first.
100%.
But it's not selfish really. Like, it's really just taking care of yourself so you can take care of other people.
Well, Dave, you've done extremely well up until now. And I have full faith in you, and I wish this business on to the next level in every plan you have still in the back of your mind. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and for sharing your thoughts.
No worries, man.
I've loved it. This has been a lot of fun for me. You gave me access to the flow. You've peppermint tea, kombucha, real comfortable setting. Dave, you've built something real special here, man, and you should be proud of it.
Thank you, man. I am. I'm very proud of it. I'm very grateful as well, man. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to provide a place like this. Because it has a ripple effect, man.
Yeah.
It has a positive effect. And I remember meditating on this since I opened the business. Accessing my quiet centre and believing in what I was doing, and the intention behind it was to give some benefit, create some value for people, and then, the benefit comes back to you. There's this positive feedback loop,
Well, Dave, you've done exactly that, man. Come here.
Alright, dude.
Nice.
Pleasure, man. Cheers, Dave. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.